That was what, January, February?
Yeah, it was not long ago. We had all the judicial candidates we could get on.
Yeah.
I'm going to go on to two of those subjects.
Dib was on. Dib called in, and
Yeah.
Jay called in. Was
Had
Jay
two of them call in.
And then JP and I.
Welcome. Woo! Hallelujah. It is Monday, and welcome to the Trailer Park Show. I'm going to get it over to our producer. Y'all know Slowpoke.
Hi, folks. Whether you like it or not, you know. Gary Teal, I'm glad you could make it down here. And then, of course, Michael Lee, official Trailer Park lawyer. Everybody's got to have one, and you know what they say, the only good one's mine. I mean, you can get rid of all the rest of them. Michael Toth.
That's it.
I did it anyway, didn't I? Michael Toth, Third Court of Appeals, place
Correct.
6.
Place 6, yes, sir.
Very good to have you back on with us
I am
again.
delighted
We
to be
could not
back
get
on.
your opponent on. There is a runoff coming up on the 22nd, May 22nd.
Early voting has started already.
No, early vote starts on May.
Started already? May?
When's early vote start? 14th?
Early voting starts May 14.
May
Early
14?
voting ends May 18, and runoff election day is May 22nd. Vote for
Okay.
Mike.
Now at least got somebody here that knows what the hell's going on, huh?
Well,
I've got a vested
Marilyn
interest.
Jackson's here too.
I was so excited and so honored to have voted for you.
Thank you, Marilyn.
You're
Appreciate your
very
support.
welcome.
I
You're very
appreciate
welcome.
your
I
support.
was going down the ballot. I'm like, there he is. That's the one. That's the one.
Vote Tooth.
I did. I did. It was fun. So now you're in a runoff,
I am.
and so I'll be back down to the poll again.
Wonderful. Well,
So
we
tell us
appreciate that.
tell us a little bit, what have you been doing besides out there campaigning since the first
Has there been any
election?
news that you was here last?
Yeah, no, thank you. So we had a great showing on primary election day. We took the top spot. We won 39% of the vote in a four-way race. It was an 8-point spread, and we won 23 out of the 24 counties. We got about 56,000 votes. It was a very good night for us, but we have not slowed down at all, not one bit. You know, the courts are so important in our country and so important in our state. Every day we have to work to make sure that we have the most qualified, the most experienced, the most principled judges that we can get. So since primary election day, we have reorganized our team, and we're reaching out to more voters. We're reaching out to more individuals to get endorsements, to get support of any type. I encourage everyone who's watching, check out our website. It's www.miketothforjustice.com. That's www.miketothforjustice.com.
I'm sure we can get that on the screen here before it's over with.
Put it up, yeah.
The producers
Let's see
are here
it.
gossiping
And you
with
can
people.
see it's T-O-T-H. If I had one more O, I'd be a tooth, but it's actually just Toth, just for the record. Set the record straight here. And, you know, we're looking for volunteers. We're looking for folks to help us out, knock on doors, make calls, put signs up. I mean,
Okay.
any help that anyone can give, we're looking for it. It is so important in these runoffs to get out the vote.
Yes.
That's the three
yes.
things I'm going to talk
Out the
about with
vote.
you.
That's it.
Yes.
That'll make 3.
And-
I had 2 till you just said that. About all these people need volunteers. Every candidate out there.
Every one of them.
You don't have to just, I know a lot of people are busy and it's hard to get up. So we'll talk about that some before it's over with. We'll talk about the importance of these elections. And these are only going to be, the runoff is only going to be you for a lot of these counties,
That's correct, yeah.
or your race. And so
That's absolutely
how do we get, let's start there. How are we going to get voters out to vote
first of
for
all-
you or your opponent?
I had a question. What
Go ahead.
counties are affected by your race?
Let's do that, yeah.
Which counties?
You said
there's
24?
Yeah, there's 24 of
24.
them. Yeah. And
Name some that will be familiar. Does that include Caldwell, Williamson, Hayes? Which one?
it does. It includes each of those counties.
Okay.
So, you know, it's Travis, Williamson, Hayes County, Bastrop County, Comal County, all the way into the Hill Country.
Comal
so
County?
Comal County, we go all
Is it
the
all of those
way-
counties?
All of them,
Not
and the
just-
entirety of them as well. Bell
Okay,
County,
yeah. So I was
and then we
asking.
go all the way to Tom Green County, so all the way
Wow.
into the Hill
San
Country.
Angelo.
So San Angelo, as Gary mentioned, is a part. I was 3 times in San Angelo in a 2-week period during the primary. I'll be back in San Angelo next week on Wednesday. I look forward to seeing all my friends in San Angelo on Wednesday, and it is a enormous area, over 300 miles in the Third Court of Appeals. So to answer your question, Mike, it affects the citizens, the businesses, the entities in each of those 24 counties at a minimum. And if this court, there are 4 candidates, there are 4 members of the court who will be up for re-election in November when we get to the general election. There's 4 Democrat opponents, and if the court were to be remade from the conservative court that it is now to a court with liberal activists, it will profoundly affect businesses and individuals across the 24 counties, and this is the point I wanted to make also, across the entirety of the state of Texas. Why is that? Because the Third Court of Appeals, since it includes Travis County, is the court that handles the most important government cases. And the government of Texas, the state of Texas, obviously operates in all 254 counties. So if there's a ruling about a state agency or a ruling about a rule implementation or about a statute, it's affecting all Texans because the statutes and the rules and the laws of Texas affect people in all different parts of the state.
Can we expand on that a little bit?
Well, if they have, so what does the Sunset Committee go to?
I'll have to check that.
Is that
but
with
if
you?
it's-
It's not.
Yeah, I mean, basically, the different state boards and state agencies, their cases are handled in Travis County for the most part, and then they're appealed to the third court.
Okay.
So, the different boards, the different agencies, the different statewide commissions, if their seat is in Austin, what tends to happen is the cases that involve them are tried in district courts throughout Travis County, and then they're appealed where? To the Third Court of Appeals. That's the court that I'm running for. I'm in a runoff election right now.
They go to the Third Court of Appeals for sanity, because district courts in Travis County have a little experience down there.
Yeah, I mean,
They're different.
To sort of paint a picture of the political whiplash, we have a Republican state government that passes laws that most of us would agree with, and then if somebody takes it to court, it goes to a typically Democrat set of district courts and could get reversed. And I think that you guys are the only layer between those district courts and the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court is 9 people. They don't have time to hear 1,000 cases. So really, if there's no Third Court of Appeals to possibly reverse the decision of the Democrats, and I realize that a lot of attorneys would rather not think of it in such a bald, partisan manner. So it's not so much that either court is representing a political party. I work for a political party, but in general, the philosophy of these courts locally at the district level is to be really liberal and to whatever is going on, they're going to take a more liberal point of view than anyone at this table would.
To be like the People's Republic of California.
Yeah. So it's, I was saying whiplash because we start out a session of the legislature once every 2 years. You hope that they're going to maybe make some corrections to whatever's going wrong, but then if that stuff gets overturned at the district court level, and then if there isn't a Republican or more conservative Court of Appeals, then the legislature might as well not meet. So here, these things are going back and forth. And as I said, if the Third Court of Appeals were controlled by judges who were sympathetic to what the district courts thought, there isn't enough daylight in the day for the Supreme Court to hear all the cases that they would need to hear to get things back on track.
Well, I still don't think you got my wife excited.
So it's important as a buffer, so to speak.
I mean, I know it's hard to explain
Yes. Yeah,
how day to day the average person out there can be affected by Third Court of Appeals.
well, what isn't?
I don't know how.
What isn't on your agenda? I mean, basically, the Court of Appeals, criminal appeals. Here's anything that's appealed from your court, the court that you're running for, and the Supreme Court hears things that are appropriate for that court. But basically, you guys do everything. What is it that bypasses you? If anything?
Well, the Court of Criminal Appeals has its own specialized jurisdiction, but yeah, I mean, for the most part, the major civil law cases, which are cases, between the government and residents, or between 2 different residents of Texas, I mean, those are the major cases that'll come before the third court. Cases involving private property, cases involving businesses, cases involving employment,
Divorce?
cases involving You
No
know, all
divorce?
different kinds. We have, child custody cases. I
You
mean,
hear that,
all
Mom?
different
Oh,
kinds
too
of
late for
cases
child
So it's
custody, I
civil.
are
guess.
coming before the third court. Yeah, all, pretty much every shape and size of civil cases are coming before
But
the
not
third
family
court.
law. So you
And-
said divorce, so
Yeah.
not family
Well,
law?
we have
Why?
jurisdiction over a wide range of cases. I think the important thing to really understand, and this gets to Gary's point, is that the Supreme Court of Texas has what is called discretionary review, which is to say they don't have to take appeals. And the reason for that is because there's appeals courts all across the state. So if the Supreme Court had to hear every single appeal from every single case in every single court, like Gary was saying, there wouldn't be enough hours in the day for the Supreme Court of the state to process all these cases, hear all the appeals, hear the arguments, read through the briefs, and issue all these opinions. So the Supreme Court of Texas, like the U.S. Supreme Court, like the Supreme Courts in other states, it can decide not to hear an appeal. No such mechanism exists for the appeals court. So for the Third Court of Appeals, they take all the cases that come from the district courts in those 24 counties. And for the most part, the cases end at the appeals court. 97 or more % of cases, the final ruling is going to be from the appeals court, and that's it. So we really need to get it right, and we really need to elect judges who have the qualifications, who have the experience, who have the right judicial methodology and philosophy. I'm running as an originalist in the line of Justice Gorsuch and the line of the great Justice Scalia. I mean, someone who just had an extraordinary impact on my own education, my own understanding of the law, my own understanding of the Constitution, my own understanding of how to read law. Again, I work at the Texas Attorney General's office. I served in the Marine Corps, and I bring those experiences and those qualifications to my campaign. I mean, when I started at the Texas Attorney General's office, what we did day in and day out was sue the Obama administration. Go to work, sue Obama, go home when you're done. I mean, that was the basic job description. And I learned from those experiences in those cases exactly what separation of powers and what federalism are all about.
That's kind of like what I did at Judicial Watch. We were in the sue the Clinton administration business 24/7. For real.
So what you were suing the Obama administration regarding Obamacare or any and everything?
Right. Well, it's a good point that you raise. The Texas Attorney General's office, where I work, actually just brought a new lawsuit over Obamacare, and I don't know if this is something that y'all have talked about or your viewers have focused on. But if you recall, when Obamacare went to the United States Supreme Court, it was upheld, and it was upheld as a tax. Exactly,
which
Mike.
no one argued.
Right, and the main argument when Obamacare went up to the Supreme Court was whether or not the individual mandate, which is a requirement that all individuals purchase insurance, was within the Congress's commerce power. And the argument that the states made, including Texas, was the commerce power includes the power to regulate commerce, not the power to create commerce. Okay, so when you're telling someone to go out and buy something, you're not regulating commerce, you're compelling commerce. So the U.S. Supreme Court accepted that argument, and 5 justices on the court held that Obamacare was problematic under the Commerce Clause. What happened, however, to Mike's point, was that the Chief Justice Roberts, along with 4 other justices, said, well, while it is not constitutional as an exercise of Congress's commerce power, it's constitutional as a tax. Okay, now fast forward, everyone, to December 2017. What happens? Congress passes a historic tax relief bill. One of the tax penalties that is taken away or canceled in the legislation from 2017 is the tax penalty associated with the individual mandate. So what Texas and Wisconsin, leading a 20-state coalition, have now argued in a lawsuit that we filed in February is that Obamacare, the only constitutional leg that it had to stand on, is no longer, because there's no longer a tax associated with the individual mandate. So to answer your question, yes, we have sued over Obamacare now multiple times. We thought it was unconstitutional from the get-go, and we still think it's unconstitutional, and we're going to keep arguing that. But when I was working at the Texas Attorney General's office in direct litigation, there was a whole series of additional rules that the Obama administration had issued that I fought against. And you know, one thing I really learned is that so much of, if we think about the previous administration, so much of the constitutional problems really came from the regulatory functions of the federal government, from the different agencies, and from these regulations that were affecting literally thousands and thousands of businesses, millions and billions of dollars all across the country without any kind of congressional input, without the lawmakers having any say in it.
It seemed to me, I hate lawyer talk. It seemed to me that many people didn't realize that they were
I
actually,
probably would too if I knew what it was.
they were actually trying to make criminal not purchasing insurance, which was insane to me.
Well, it was
You must purchase
coercion to me.
you must purchase insurance or you go to jail.
Well, that's
That's
coercion.
crazy.
That's coercion to me.
That's like saying you must buy this product or you're going to go to jail.
Right.
Well, there's
And unfortunately, it wasn't put to people that way.
well, most
if
people
you
thought
if you explain that to people-
it's free. They thought.
Yeah, everybody thought it was
everybody
free.
is going to get insurance and it's free. I'm like, ain't nothing free.
If
It's nothing free.
If you think health insurance is expensive, wait till the government tries to make it free.
Exactly. I mean, this is not another country. This is America. It's not free. That was.
And we've had, you know, at the Texas Attorney General's office, I mean, we've really been in the front lines of trying to maintain the rule of law in the state of Texas. For Texans, we've tried to maintain the rule of law as it relates to the federal government, making sure that the federal government stays within its enumerated powers set forth in the United States Constitution, the document that establishes the greatest country, the greatest government in the history of the world. We've tried to make sure that the government stays within its boundaries, and we've also tried to make sure that the different branches of the federal government are doing only the powers that they've been allotted.
So you're not of the living document.
As
Cool.
as Justice Scalia said, Mike, I prefer a dead Constitution.
No, I remember Charlie Morris in my con law class. It's a living document. I haven't seen a document take a walk yet. I haven't seen it fix dinner. Haven't seen it eat. Haven't seen it have children. Living.
Well, you know, it's really amazing how the federal government, they have their hand everywhere. My thing is, stay in your own corner. Stay where you need to be and do what you need to do. I mean, you don't have the time to come outside, and they overreach and everything practically that they do. It's just, ooh.
And we were right there every step of the way, making sure. I work for Attorney General Paxton. Attorney General Paxton sued the Obama administration 22 times in 24 months. One lawsuit a month. And I'll tell you, each of those lawsuits
Damn busy lawyer right there.
is quite a lot of work.
But actually, that's what it takes. When I worked at Judicial Watch, I mean, that's what we did. We just sued
Every day.
every day. FOIA actions every day.
I used to say the Obama administration was a full employment guarantee for conservative lawyers. It was a full employment guarantee for those of us that believe in separation of powers, that believe in the Constitution as it was originally written, as what it originally meant.
We're getting
For those of us who
little
believe
sidetracked from
in federalism.
Mike
what,
Toth
Pokey?
and your.
Well,
I
it's
don't
what he
think we've
does.
quite sold my wife yet. I'll get excited and come out and vote on you, on your race. Period.
Oh, so that's what he's
I'm going to have to.
say.
I don't know how to excite people about that.
I'll come,
Well-
you know.
Let me ask this question. I was wondering, now we have a state convention coming up. Do you anticipate having a campaign presence there at all?
That's the runoff goes until May 22nd, and the
Right.
convention is afterwards.
It's in June.
That's right. So I have
But you have
plans.
we have the general coming
That's
up
right.
in November.
Yeah.
That's what I was wondering.
Right. No, it's a good question. I mean, I have planned my life down to the minute up until May 22nd.
I'm sure if you come out on top, you will have a presence at this convention.
Oh, that's the other life after May 22nd.
Right. Exactly.
We had your website up there just a minute ago.
Great.
If we can't get people real excited, because I know this will go a lot on turnout. There's not going to be a lot of turnout because
Right.
I don't know how many of these counties got more than you on the ballot.
Right.
More than your race on the ballot. I think your Travis going to be one. You're dead.
Yeah. No. And typically there is a big voter drop off for
runoffs, a big voter drop off.
But that's why, again, the website is www.miketothforjustice.com. You can see our endorsements. You
Well, it
can
was
see-
up there a little while ago anyway.
Yeah, well, head over there, miketothforjustice.com, and, sign up. I mean, we really need your help to get out, to reach out to voters, to knock on doors, to make calls, to talk to friends and family about voting, about following this race. And we're taking this very, very seriously, and we're very excited about it too. I mean, as you can tell from my level of interest in constitutional law and administrative law, I mean, this stuff really, really, really matters. It is really important.
I know you're excited about it, but how do we get other people excited about it?
Well, let me say this, Pokey.
You don't know about lawyer stuff.
If you voted for Mike Toth in the primaries,
Yeah.
go back again.
Go back again.
And,
Go
and,
back
and, and take
again.
a friend.
Take a
And
friend.
take a friend,
Take
take
family.
several friends. Yeah,
That's it.
get your
We always
neighborhood.
vote in them just because so I'll drag her down there, but she usually just doesn't really know who we're voting for.
Well, you need to just say this one. This one, Ma. Get that. You
that
can't-
means
you
I
can't
better
tell
point to
that,
her,
but
her
you-
opponent because then she'll vote for him.
Right.
Who is your opponent?
I'm running against Donna Davidson in the runoff election. So Donna and I were the top two finishers in the primary. I took the top spot with 39%, and Donna came in the second place with 31%.
And in the spirit of what do you call it, open whatever it is, I have attempted to contact Donna several times to come on here. You've actually talked to her.
Yeah, let me say that unlike anybody else, I have a responsibility as the executive director. I don't take sides. I haven't
that's true.
helped either candidate done anything for anybody that I haven't done for both. And I would like to think that a runoff would be reason enough to get up out of bed and go vote for Mike Toth or Donna Davidson. Either way, I think we had a pretty friendly primary because
Yeah.
I think everybody agrees that any of those four candidates would be far better than any Democrat. And I heard you guys went to the same meetings you went to, and everyone was very warm and complimentary of each other.
Well-
But I think that I don't know what you've been able to do as a political guy. I don't know if you don't have enough money to have TV ads, I assume. Have you been running TV? You have billboards? What are you trying to do to get this into people's heads so that they actually wake up when voting starts and go vote? Is that a fair question?
Yeah, no,
it's a political question.
Sure,
not a legal
absolutely.
question.
Yeah, no, I mean, that gets into the kind of mechanics of campaigning. I'll just give the most basic answer is you got to get yourself right in front of the voters. And so, we're really working in this particular runoff to get in front of as many runoff voters as we possibly can. I mean, that's one of the reasons I'm here tonight with y'all is to spend some time talking really to your audience right now, letting everyone know I'm Mike Toth. I'm a major in the Marine Corps. I work for the Attorney General of Texas. I have clerked for a great member of the federal judiciary, a Fifth Circuit judge who's a real hero of good jurisprudence. And I'm hoping to take all those experiences and the qualifications I have and to serve you, the people of the 24 counties that are within the third court, as a judge, and to be an impartial judge, to be a judge who will have predictable rulings. I mean, wouldn't that be nice? You come into court, I can't promise you're going to like the outcome that you get, but I can promise you that I will do everything that I can so that the parties that are affected and the people that are affected by the decisions understand and can explain it, I mean, to a spouse or to a family member or to a person who's
A non-lawyer?
filling up their car. Yeah, to a non-lawyer, to folks that have, like all of us, a lot on their plate, a lot on their schedule, and just want to know what the law is. We were talking before about Justice Scalia. He used to tell a story, it's a very interesting story, and it teaches a great lesson. One of the terrible government leaders of many, many, many years ago, the Emperor Nero, used to hang statutes, the laws of the Roman Empire. He would post them, but he would post them so high up that the people couldn't read them. And isn't that what happens when there's judicial activism and there's opinions that people can't understand and there's rulings that people can't get to the bottom of? the law all of a sudden leaves the reach of regular people who are subject to the law. It's our government. It is our government. It belongs to us. It's the government of the people. And if we can't understand and explain to others who are also subject to the laws what our obligations are, then something really has been lost. Something very important has been lost. So, what motivates me is clear, simple, straightforward applications of the laws of this great state.
Okay, well, we haven't exactly written off on the debate yet, but it doesn't look too promising. And I'd like to ask, what's your job in the Marines? You a lawyer in the Marines, too?
I am. I can't get enough of this good stuff. So I'm a lawyer at the Texas Attorney General's office, and I'm also a lawyer in the Marine Corps. I was 4 years active duty. I'm on my 5th year now in the reserves. And I am what we call in the Marine Corps a staff judge advocate, an SJA.
JAG?
That's it, a JAG, exactly. I haven't been on the TV show. I
bet a few of those in the Navy in my days, but
that's it.
Judge Advocate
mostly
General.
discipline things, you know what I mean?
What had you done wrong to cause you to meet?
Oh, it was about
everything.
everything. Put it this way, I was lucky to get out with an honorable discharge.
No pictures on the scorecard.
Somehow that figures.
Well, on the darker side, this was back during the only mutiny we've ever had in the Navy. Look it up, Kitty Hawk Mutiny. This was just a year after that. It was not a pleasant time right at the end of Vietnam. There was a lot of racial tensions. The Navy likes to call it a riot, but when you got to pull a ship off the line and send it home because it can't function, because the crew simply ain't going to do it, sounds like a mutiny to me. And a lot of them guys did not get honorable discharges. And a lot of that spread to mess decks throughout the Navy at the time, and including mine. I was on the USS Neverdock. That's the Constellation, but we had other names for it than that. But I did straighten up enough to, no more drunk on duty, stuff like that.
Well, Pokey, of course, I've got the utmost respect for the Navy. I have a brother of mine who was a Navy attorney. He was nominated by President Trump to be a judge on the U.S. Court of Veterans Appeals. He got confirmed, and I was at his investiture ceremony. I had a chance to speak at it last month. So he's now a federal judge in Washington, D.C., and I deployed on the USS Iwo Jima, an LHD-7.
Yeah,
so
it's an old one there. Or is that the new one? The old one was the old round front on the flight deck, and
yeah. We went down to
built back in the 50s or 60s, I guess.
That sounds right. We went down to the country of Haiti after the earthquake in 2010, and it was a very important mission that we were on.
Worthwhile stuff.
Absolutely. So we went to, it was a very well-designed mission, so rather than go to exactly where the earthquake hit, we went to a different area in the northern part of Haiti where there was a lot of individuals, a lot of Haitians who had left the earthquake zone and were now basically without homes, without the infrastructure that they had left behind. So we had a lot of displaced persons, and we went with Navy doctors, with Army doctors, with a whole range of specialized officers. And the Marines provided security, and we went in and spent some time in Haiti, and then we left Haiti and went to a number of different Caribbean countries throughout Latin America, Caribbean coast of countries throughout Latin America. The Marines on the trip did some military-to-military training with our partners throughout Latin America. It was a really great deployment.
What do they call that? Organization of American States?
OAS, that's right. OAS, yeah.
That's good. That's
yeah,
all good stuff.
We had 2 U.S. ambassadors come onto the ship, and numerous State Department officials in all the different countries. Of course, we were in the country of Colombia, which is a country I visited 3 times when I was. I went there for missions 3 different times when I was on active duty.
We could go on with this a lot because I'm people think I'm crazy, but I'd like to see at least one carrier attached to Southcom. People are not giving enough attention to Southcom. Southcom is South American Southern Command, which is from Mexico South.
That's right. Yeah.
And diplomatically speaking, there's a lot going on down there. They just they're about to throw their president in jail in Brazil.
Right.
Which we should take that,
Yeah, and also for everyone watching at home, U.S. Southern Command was the last command that the Chief of Staff to President Trump, John Kelly, had. So Chief of Staff Kelly retired as the CG.
It's far more important than a lot of people realize.
Yeah,
or it should be.
So you're saying there's a vacancy?
Oh, no, there was a change of command. But when I started, so I am a reserve officer within U.S. Southern Command. And when I started General
He was-
Kelly was the CG, and when Attorney General and I, for the first time, had a chance to meet then Secretary Kelly. At this point, he retired from service in the Marine Corps, and he had become President Trump's head of Homeland Security, and we had a meeting with him to make sure that Texas and the federal government were on the same page with regard to border security.
Good.
And at the end of the day, what this administration has done is allowed individuals in the federal government to do their job, And Attorney General Paxton, my boss, has a lot of experience with regard to the border, having been a legislator in Texas, in the Texas House, and then in the Texas Senate, and knew the issues inside and out. And we went up and we sat down with then Secretary Kelly. This was before he became the President's Chief of Staff, and we had a great conversation about how we could start working together. I mean, if you think about the previous administration, we couldn't get our phone calls returned, so we had to sue them just to get their attention, just to have a dialogue.
How many soldiers did they give us?
Right.
Wasn't very many.
Yeah, so it was a really good dialogue, but for me it was interesting because I knew Secretary Kelly as General Kelly, and I'm with the Attorney General, who's General Paxton, and I just called everyone sir, just to make sure that I got it right.
Kind of like how I feel hanging around you. You a major or you a Mr. Toth?
I'll answer to anything.
I like the fact that, now our troops are on the border, but one thing I didn't particularly, just a concern of mine, is that they don't have weapons. I couldn't
Let me
figure
tell you a
that out.
secret.
What?
We don't need troops on the border. We
Well,
need
until
James Bond on the border.
Well,
And actually, we kind of got him. We shouldn't talk about it, though. Said that
which
we're
007?
we're flying drones over Mexico. I don't know why we told people that. Because now all the cartels.
Yeah, it's always strange when we talk about
we
something
just,
that we figured out.
I mean, I know it's kind of hard to hide
Don't
it
tell
there.
everybody. Everybody know.
Well, I found out, not from seeing it. It was on the newspaper.
Well,
Down there.
4,000 troops have been deployed, but I didn't like the fact that
No
that
guns?
they say there's no guns.
I'm sure
like,
they have
wait a minute, what's
handguns
up with
or
that?
sidearms.
I think they're doing some very
Yeah.
prosaic stuff to help the existing personnel carry out existing law. It's really
Yes.
not anything new. It's more like a natural disaster than anything else. So they can literally babysit children while the
They do a lot of
ISACers
engineering
get
work,
back
too.
in the field, and that's
Maintainers to drive, do roads. That's what they did when we were down there.
Could I ask a legal question?
Yeah, we need to get back to
Yeah, I don't know.
all these old war stories going on here.
You obviously can't talk about cases, and you can't talk about, probably don't want to talk about laws you think are wrong and need to be changed. But could you maybe for us and for the audience talk for a minute about this private asset forfeiture kind of legal conundrum where someone may not be convicted of any crime themselves, but just the fact that they happen to have, $50,000 in the back seat, the presumption is they must have gotten it through some
I think it's
illegal
$10,000. Is that how much the market is
I
now?
don't know, and that's my question is, can you summarize the sort of state of play of how that's going and whether or not there has been legislation? I don't know what you'd like to do to address it, but it's an area that fascinates me because I think that there are a lot of people who are suffering, and that's an unusual issue for the Republican Party because a lot of times we're on the side of the police.
Law and order
here's a
type.
case- Yeah, here's a case where I've read about counties where they got an awful lot of very nice equipment that they've been buying by doing these seizures.
For our
So-
private police now.
You mean civil forfeitures?
Is
Yeah, civil evidence.
That's on the civil. That's on the civil side.
Right.
It's the civil
No,
side.
it's obviously a very important issue, and it affects lives and affects property. But the issue in a nutshell really is what happens when an individual is apprehended and there's assets or money that's in the possession of the individual or nearby the individual. So that's sort of that kind of sets up this question of what to do with the assets. And it's a very important issue that has been affecting the courts all throughout Texas. Obviously, it's an issue that could come up in court cases in front of the third court, and we need judges that are impartial, that can look at the facts, that can figure out exactly what happened, figure out exactly who the individuals are, who's involved. And it's very important, but any time, and this really gets to this whole issue about why should we be interested in court races? Why should we be interested in the work of what judges are doing? And it's exactly for the reasons why what Gary laid out. You have these, you have these developments that are happening, and it's really incumbent upon the courts to take a fresh and an impartial and an independent look at what's going on. I mean, that's one of the hallmarks of America. I mean, when I was on active duty, I went overseas 3 separate times. And there are great people all around this world. There are great people. There are dedicated people. There are good mothers and fathers. There are good people who are in business. But what we have is the most incredible legal and constitutional system that this world has ever produced. And we ought to thank our framers, and we ought to thank our founders every single day. That's why, when I hear about a living constitution, I want to get back to this achievement that they made happen in Philadelphia, in the Bill of Rights, in the ratification of the 14th Amendment and onwards. Because, these are things that we can't take for granted. And part and parcel with that is the independent judiciary, is the ability to have judges that can take a step back, take a few paces back, and look at the facts.
Yes.
That's good, but also to his question, if you're not convicted of anything, you get pulled over and what's in the bag? I just sold my car, I got $10,000.
Maybe you could talk about whether that's growing as an activity
Yeah, is
in
that,
the courts, or has that peaked? Or I'm trying to think of some questions that you could answer that are pretty much factual questions about.
Well, it's definitely. I mean, it is definitely an issue that has attracted attention.
Libertarians
But also of, Associate Justice Clarence Thomas of the U.S. Supreme Court had a recent opinion that he wrote about this. So this is an issue that has attracted the attention of some of the greatest legal minds and legal thinkers and jurists of our country. So it's certainly an issue, Gary, that's growing in significance in terms of the attention that it's gathering in legal circles.
Well, to me, as a fundamental matter, there's kind of a conflict between you can have forfeiture on the civil side, but the criminal matter on the criminal side, there are 2 different standards of proof, and so you kind of have the common sense question of why should you lose your property if you're not guilty?
There you go. Here,
That's really the question.
you got to prove your property's innocent.
You haven't been proved guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, but your property can be taken based on the preponderance of the evidence. It's kind of a conflict between the two, and I got a feeling the big nine gonna have to solve that, answer that question at some point.
We just don't want to have Michael say anything on the show here that's going to cause him to have to hear a motion to recuse himself because he was on TV saying this and that.
That sounds like the legal mind right there. I'd have never thought of that one.
I married an attorney 30 years ago, and I say everything I've done for 30 years has been on advice of counsel.
You got me beat.
Wow.
Is there anything else that you think the public would be fascinated or interested to know? Maybe not fascinated. It is a heavy lift, but there must be
how do you get
some crazy facts about the number of cases that this court hears, or the obviously the breadth. I think is what's the most surprising thing. People assume that you specialize in something, but you hear almost everything on that court.
Well, I think one important thing to know, if you live in Travis County or Hayes County, or live in any of the counties that are within the third court, is just how unique your appeals court is. And I'll tell you exactly how. There are appeals courts all across the state of Texas. So if you're in Dallas or Houston or El Paso, there's an appeals court where you live. And for the most part, they're 50-50 courts. So about half of the cases are criminal and half of the cases are civil. It's about 2/3 of the cases in the third court are civil cases, and that's because of all the government cases. So it really is a court that has a substantial, what they call administrative docket, or government docket. And why is that? And this is, Gary, I think kind of an interesting thing that may that may be of significance to the viewers, is if you look at a lot of the laws that the legislature passes, right near the bottom of it, they'll have a venue clause which will talk about, where the law is going to be implemented or enforced, and it'll say in courts in Travis County. And what that means is that, again, we need, nobody's perfect. As the Federalist paper says, we're not the best judges of our own cause, and that applies to the district courts in Travis County as it does to the rest of us, maybe more so. And the third court comes in as a check and a balance against the district court, because that's where these government cases are being brought. So just for everyone at home, and this is why I'm running, this is why Mike Toth is on the ballot, this is why it's important to come and vote for me in the runoff. We have the major, the major initiatives and programs that the people of Texas are putting in place, and we need to make sure that we have judges that are going to give those programs and those laws and rules a fair look, and are not going to come to their job with a sense of, what do I think the right answer is? What do I think the right policy is?
Yeah.
If I were king, what would I impose? And that is the real issue. We've got a process in this country, and the process is that the public policies are set by the so-called political branches, not by the courts.
Exactly, and not by personal opinion.
Of course, yeah, absolutely.
Not by bozos and robes, as I like to call them.
Well, it'd be fun to be an emperor, and people would come and they'd tell their story, and based on one thing or another, you'd have one of them executed. But that's, luckily, we don't live in that.
Based on which one gives to your campaign?
Probably so. This is better.
Are you familiar with that court case? The Hispanics are suing because there's not enough of them getting elected.
Is this you're talking
in
about
San Antonio?
A redistricting case? I mean, Texas.
No, not redistricting. It's should have brought it up. I don't know what I'm talking about. Huh? It's.
And why would they sue?
Because they're saying there's not enough Hispanics represented on the board.
Well, keep running.
The Republican Hispanics are doing just fine.
Well, and that is something. Race is a tough issue, and let me say how honored I am to be on this show ever, because I think you have pioneered a frank discussion about issues that a lot of people.
I've been called a lot of things before, but
no,
there's some things you can't pull the race card on.
And in this case, I know that there have been redistricting cases where the Democrats will say this isn't fair to our constituents, and they'll get rid of a Republican guy who does look like the citizens there and has a Hispanic surname, and they'll elect a Democrat who does not look like the people in that district and it does not have a Hispanic surname. So
I'll tell you a story. Tim, I don't know if you all have ever had Tim Von Dolan on this program, but Tim's a supporter of mine, and he's a wonderful individual, a wonderful philanthropist, a wonderful businessman, and he was in the Texas legislature also. And one of the roles that Tim fulfilled when he was in the legislature was a redistricting plan that was enacted by the legislature in the early 1980s. And this was before I got to the Texas Attorney General's office. This was the early 1980s. But in case, Tim was giving me a recount of how it played out. So, he carries this bill through the Texas legislature, and it gets enacted, it gets signed into law by the governor. All the compromises are worked out, all the horse trading, everything is all done. And of course, he's planning on the inevitable lawsuit. So right after the law is passed, of course, the state of Texas is sued, and Texas is represented by the Attorney General's office, and Tim is going to be the big witness, because he was the champion and the shepherd of this great piece of legislation. So he goes to federal court, and he and the Assistant Attorney General are having their back and forth, and Tim's answering all the questions, and the judge finally turns to Tim after he's finished, and he says, "Mr. Von Dolan, that was the most persuasive, clear defense of a redistricting map, and I'm going to hold it unconstitutional." So redistricting has been an issue which has gotten to the point where the maps have to be drawn every 10 years. That's what the Constitution requires. We do a census every 10 years. And you have these cases that are in litigation for almost 10 years also. So the courts haven't even sorted it all out. This is a federal issue, not a state issue. The courts haven't even figured it out, and it's time to draw another map.
And that map we draw doesn't always work. I'm thinking about, he asked, why do I want to get my picture with Congressman Doggett? I said, we have tried to get rid of him every way we could. And you get to where you admire your enemy, I guess, for after a while. He is very, we just can't, I mean, we redistricted him out of there. We did everything we could. But he just still keeps getting reelected. What, 28, 29 years now? Or he's been in there forever.
He has.
I'm still stuck on the philanthropy part of this guy you're talking about, because I'm thinking maybe we need to have him on, all right? He might could be our new
Sponsor.
supplier.
How about that? One thing led to another.
Yeah, I'm thinking pizza. This might be a source of pizza. Well, it's hard to, you know.
Y'all
Yeah.
are doing a great
Nice.
job, though. And this
Yeah,
is
but
a
you
wonderful
talk about
program.
this pioneer thing. I'm thinking today I heard from Jesse Contreras. Me and him were dump truck drivers. We started this show. He sent me a thing now. He's paying $1,000 a week guaranteed to drive a junk dump truck. How far things have come. You know, when I owned a dump truck, it used to be $1,500, $2,000 a week total. Now he's going to get the driver guaranteed with 401, and you got to do all this stuff now. And I'm thinking, man, alive, we've come a long.
A very long way.
Drive a dump truck?
Well, I'm from the trucking industry. You right?
Yeah, you're not in it there, and that's
so,
I guess it's normal now.
well, it's
You used to get 28%, and that was high.
well, if we could, if the federal government would stop all the regulations against.
That's another place that might could make it interesting, because I know in the transportation industry and small business, you can often run across legal cases. I say I don't like lawyers. I know some lawyers they can literally sue the paint off a used dump truck. I mean, I had a driver T-bone somebody. Nobody got hurt until the guy realized I had $1 million insurance. He fell down.
Yeah, well, I mean, that gets to another reason why this race matters. I mean, if you know, there are 4 Democrats who are lined up.
Forget exciting my old lady. Let's excite Jesse Contreras and them dump trucks.
Yeah, and
Get him out the vote.
Texas has made incredible progress. I mean, when the courts were controlled by the Democrat Party in Texas, Texas was ranked near the bottom of business climate across the United States of America.
Trial
It
lawyers.
has made incredible progress, and we need to stay on the track of predictability, of rule of law, of judges following the law and not their own personal conception of justice or social justice or anything else. You know, that has the rule of law mentality that the Texas judges by and large have had over the past 2 to 2.5 decades is one of the reasons why the Texas miracle is alive and well. But it's ultimately a choice, and it's a choice for the voters. It's a choice for the voters in the runoff election. You know, look at our website. It's, you know, I've said it before. It's MikeTothForJustice.com.
We had it up there for a long time. What happened, Ma?
Look at our
Okay,
supporters.
Chip, put it back up.
You know, I'm endorsed by Attorney General Paxton. I'm endorsed by Congressman Lamar Smith. 32 years he ran the House Judiciary Committee. He knows a thing or two about good judging. Endorsed by recently former Chief Justice of the Texas Supreme Court, Tom Phillips, Justice Scott Brister. A whole collection of people have united behind me because of the experience and qualifications. These lawsuits and the work at the Texas Attorney General's office, I really think is an incredible way to understand the rule of law and then bring it and to serve the people by following the rule of law in a different way. And that's really, again, what's inspired me to want to become a judge, is to serve in a new capacity.
Not to
like
got to
it.
make lots of money. Like I'm still lost on this, on these trucks and these lawyers. The truck getting a wreck. Bendix Air Brakes had a lawyer. Freightliner had a lawyer. The engine, Cummings engine had a lawyer.
It's
Well,
just money.
I'll guarantee you that the lawyers on that
They
side
all made money.
made more money than the judge on the bench or,
Yeah.
or any of the government attorneys. Government attorneys are not getting rich.
The tires had lawyers just to prove that it wasn't their fault.
Only the wives can get rich if they run for office.
Is that right?
Long as the Clinton cartel is around.
Yeah, 10-4.
Well,
It was
I can say politically.
about
and
10 minutes
going-
left.
Going back to
8 minutes.
to what I do for a living, whether it's you or whether it's Donna, I guess what we're going to try to do all summer long is that if we're knocking doors for the governor, and the governor, you know, has $43 million to spend, and that's probably more than any candidate for the Court of Appeals is going to have in the bank.
Just a little bit.
Just a little while. So,
Yep.
so when the governor has a big staff of young people who are rounding up people to go door to door and all that, I'm just going to try to do my best, and the rest of the party will do their best to just make the nominee famous. And of course, this is the runoff for one position. There are 3 other positions where we have an incumbent.
Great incumbents. Justice Purrier, Justice Field, Justice Borland. These are fantastic judges. The third court is in great shape right now. It's resolving cases quickly. It's operating efficiently. There's a great amount of collegiality across the court. If you can trace the progress of the third court with the election of each and every one of the justices that's on this court right now. And Gary, I appreciate that. Whether or not I'm the nominee, I appreciate that. You know, we all stand to gain or to lose based on the quality of judges that we put in office. You know, in the federal system, you know, it's different, of course. You know, you elect the president, you elect the Senate, and they are the ones who are involved directly in the process of nominating and confirming the federal judges that we have. In Texas, responsibility belongs to us, to us on this stage, to everyone who's watching at home. It's your responsibility. When early voting starts on May 14 through May 18, and then again on runoff election day, it'll be your chance to vote in the runoff election and to choose who do you want to represent you on the ballot to be a candidate through the summertime into the fall and then on to the general election. I feel like I've got the experience, the qualifications, the hands-on experience with the rule of law, going against the Obama administration, serving in the Marine Corps, which is another way to represent our country and to follow through and to implement the rule of law to make sure that there's fairness across our military, and going forward to be a good judge on the court. A judge that's impartial, a judge that comes to it with a lot of energy, a judge that understands that at the end of the day, the people need to know what the law is. And the law is made by the people's representatives, not by the judges. The judges are there to implement, to apply the law fairly, clearly, in accordance with its original meaning, with the meaning that it had when the lawmakers who acted put it into place.
That is what it should be.
That's what it's supposed to be.
How long is this term for?
6 years.
Okay, awesome.
Can you explain how it is that 4 of the 6 positions are up at the same time? I've never understood that. I meant to get out a piece of paper and try to figure it out.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I mean, the legislature decides essentially the size of the courts in terms of the number of members, and the legislature added justices to the third court some years ago. It was obviously a good move given the size of the population. I mean, we now have 2.5 million people across the 24 counties that make up the third court. It previously only had 3 judges. So think about that for a second. 3 judges handling appeals from courts that cover 2.5 million people, and no way that could happen. So some years ago, the legislature expanded it, and the final composition in terms of the election cycles has 4 of the 6 up at the same time, and then 1 and 1 in staggered years. So it allows for the possibility of a court to be really remade in one election cycle. And if it is remade, guess what, folks? You got to wait 6 years.
Right.
You got to wait 6
Through
years.
the next presidency.
You've got to wait exactly through to use Gary's analogy. You got to wait through an entire presidential and half of another presidential term. I mean, that's how long it is. You know, it's 6 years is a long period of time, day in and day out, to potentially be subject to liberal activist rulings.
And help me out with this. Given the fact that the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeals can't hear 30% of the cases that are heard by the Courts of Appeals all over the place, does that mean that a lot of the rulings made by that level of courts hold a precedent that district courts must follow?
Absolutely, yeah. No, yeah. Gary, you're absolutely right. Yeah, no, that's a great point. So if you have a case that's decided by the appeals court, it binds the lower courts, and if the Texas Supreme Court doesn't have the ability to grant review of all of these different cases, and the ones that aren't ultimately reviewed by the Supreme Court stay in place and they bind the lower courts. So, and you know, we saw, I think, throughout the Obama administration, in certain areas where some of the federal courts were really remade by his nominees, the effect that had on the lower courts. I mean, I can think of one particular circuit court, which is what they call the federal courts of appeals, where the doctrines and the rulings that affect sentencing and that affect,
You got to explain all this in 3 minutes, right?
I will. Yeah, no, but just to sum up, I mean, it had a profound impact on just the basic daily lives of folks that were living within that circuit. So that can happen. Here in Texas, it can happen in one single election.
And then have an effect that lasts.
That lasts for 6 years.
That
Yes,
lasts.
absolutely.
10-4.
High stakes.
Yeah, I'm glad you came on. We got about 2 minutes left. I know what really bugs me about it is how to get people out for the runoff, because like you say, we all know it's a low turnout thing.
I honestly think that the only way this is going to work is if we, as a party, have representatives in the neighborhoods. Normally, you think of that as being a precinct chair and the person who,
my job, right?
who they recruit. Yeah, but it's never the
Work
job
with
of one
ECs.
person.
No.
A precinct chair who's good at it will have 5 or 6 people spread out. And I honestly think that, with all due respect to the candidate who's at the table, there is no piece of mail that I've ever seen that was effective at getting someone to jump up out of their chair and run and vote. But when someone knocks on their door and says, "My name's Gary, I live over here on Tina Court, and I see you walking your dog, it's good to meet you, I'm a Republican, I see you're a Republican, I've met this guy, I've met this woman, I've met this candidate personally, and I think you need to vote for them," I think it makes the precinct chairs the most powerful people in
I've always said that, yeah.
110% in agreement, and please go to my website, MikeTothForJustice.com. Sign up. We need folks to be out there knocking on doors, talking to your friends, talking to your neighbors, talking to people that know you and trust you and understand that you have the right views on what makes a good judge. We need you to be helping us out, to be helping out my campaign. I want you as a volunteer. With you and with your help, we can win this. But we're going to need folks in 24 counties who are willing to give a little bit of time for a very, very good cause with long-term positive consequences. There's a big
Okay.
upside.
Awesome.
Well, I definitely agree with the precinct level is where the grassroots political activity. We'll be back next week, folks. I'm glad y'all could make it in. I'm glad you make it, and we're not going to completely write off the idea about a debate, but it doesn't look very likely, and there's not a lot of money left between now and early voting. So anyway, we'll be back next week. We're working on 2 different things. I don't know which one it'll be. Hope Marilyn can join us again. Hopefully Michael Lee too. I know you'll be here, right, with the pizza? Somebody got to
As
show
long
the
as I
pizza.
have a
You and the
key
pizza.
role in the organization.
Right. Now we know.
Okay, well, 10 seconds left. Everybody say bye. Bye-bye, all.
Best of luck
Evening.
to you, Mike.
Bye-bye. Yeah, it was good to see you. I don't know if we'll see you again or not, but we'll try to do what we can. Bye.